Viewpoints on the talk station FM 107 AM 1240. We're live on location this afternoon at the Embassy Suites in Cary, North Carolina, where we are participating in the Conservative Leadership Conference with the folks at the CIVITAS Institute. They are the primary sponsor, and we're going to be carrying on a series of conversations this afternoon with some of the participants in the program. And today we have joining us Dr. Rosemary Fernandez Stein. She's a pediatrician in Burlington, North Carolina. And with that, Dr. Stein, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
This is an interesting conference. Now, my first question is, why are you here?
Because it is so important to get out the voice to moms that they are an integral part of society and of building our next generation. And I believe that a big part of why we're not doing well is because moms' voices aren't heard in society. It's been diluted by many different factors.
All right, let's talk a little bit about your background before we get into the depth of that, because that intrigues me greatly. And again, we're live on location at the Leadership Conference in Cary, North Carolina, the Conservative Leadership Conference. Dr. Stein, you're a pediatrician.
Yes, I am.
All right, now help me out. You're obviously, and we started this conversation jokingly, Hispanic.
That's right. I was born in New York City to legal Dominican parents. But my parents decided when I was 13 years old that they needed to go back to the Dominican Republic. My mom was an educator, and she wanted to own her own business, which was a school. So we went back to the Dominican Republic. She owned a school. In fact, to leave my house, I had to go through the school. And then she decided that, well, English and Spanish was not enough, and she needed me to have a third language. So she sent me as an exchange student to Quebec, Canada. And so I did my last year of high school in Quebec. So I'm trilingual. I also speak French. And then she signed me up for medical school because when I was 8, I had said that I was going to be a doctor. So when I get back to the Dominican Republic, I was signed up for medical school. And I said, Ma, she said, yeah, that's what you said. People don't need to change their minds about things like that. So I went through medical school, decided that I love this. This is what I was meant to be. And I love kids because, well, I was going in and out of the school every day, so it was a natural thing to become a pediatrician.
Now, you're working in Burlington, North Carolina.
That's right.
Do you have a group practice, or is this a solo practice?
In 1999, my husband and I decided that we were going to start a practice. He was in the military and had fulfilled his commitment. And we looked at Burlington, North Carolina, because it had just the right mix. It had a lot of Hispanics. And we wanted to be able to help them have the best outcomes possible. So we started a practice, and it was just me at that time. And my mom answered the phones like this, hello. And now we have 4 other doctors, plus my husband and I, and we take care of about 5,000 to 6,000 kids.
Wow. Dr. Rosemary Fernandez Stein. We're going to focus on that Fernandez here for a moment as well. And you're here at the Conservative Leadership Conference and practice in Burlington. 4,000 patients?
Between 5,000 and 6,000.
5,000 and 6,000 patients. Wow. All right. Let's talk about the comment you made at the outset of our interview. And you were saying that you're basically giving voice to mothers. That's my takeaway from our conversation a few moments ago. And I want to take this in 2 areas. One, what in general is, in fact, subduing, inhibiting, restraining this voice of motherhood?
There are so many factors, but school and the lack of school choice and the lack of ability of the moms to make a choice about what is in the curriculum and how the children should be taught. That's a first one.
But wait a second, Dr. Stein here. You're working in medicine. We now have the government indicating how you should prescribe medicine and how I or my grandchildren who are with me today should participate in medicine. Isn't government supposed to do that?
No.
Okay.
And, what I've discovered talking about mom's voice is that voice of the mom is the most developmentally nurturing and completing voice that the child needs. And that voice of the mom has been diluted. And it's my observation that because of the dilution of mom's voice is that we're having a myriad of learning problems, of mental disorders, because the building blocks of building a human being aren't being put into place like they were supposed to be. We've let science and psychiatrists, speech therapists, et cetera, nutritionists get in the way of the mom and the dad knowing what's best.
Our guest, again, Dr. Rosemary Fernandez Stein. She's a pediatrician in Burlington, North Carolina. Here we're live on location at the Conservative Leadership Conference in Cary, part of the JWP Civitas Institute's annual program. We're talking about the role and the importance of motherhood. And by the way, I just want to make mention of this. You do a radio program. We'll have to talk about that at another time. Let's talk about the role of now government that's intruded into the raising of our children. We're seeing this in the aspect of government actually demanding, I would say this, of parents, mothers particularly, that they should send their children to a government facility, aka a school, a daycare, things of this nature. But we also have, and I'm sensitive to this, the challenges of parenthood and now the, quote, dual parent or the working family. So you've got two bread earners, the dual bread earners in the home. Does that not in some way influence this conversation as well?
It does, and I'll tell you, I was raised in a dual earner family myself. My mom worked and my dad worked, but my mom made sure that at the end of the day it was her voice that I remembered. She came back and she told me how her day went and what did I do, and she made comments on that. So it's not that alone. Some parents, and how about single moms? Single moms have to work. That's not it alone. It's not just Head Start or whatever you do. It's the method. When you demean or make lesser the voice of the mom, that's what influences. It's when you don't teach the child authority, which are the first steps to learning. If the child doesn't learn how to listen, then there's no use in showing the child an A and a B. He's not going to get it.
Associated with this, and I want to touch further in the challenges that parents, and you mentioned mothers particularly, and I'm very appreciative of mothers, I might add. I had one, and thankfully, life cannot go on without one, to be very frank. But the other challenge that I think, and I'm wondering if you run into this, is we have a culture that, to that comment a moment ago, that demeans motherhood, that in somehow, and I can speak to this personally, being a baby boomer in those years when we were talking socially, and folks will said to my wife, well, what do you do? And the statement, I'm a mother, was perceived as, oh, well, you don't do anything. And I can attest to the fact that being a mother is a full-time job in and of itself. But we have a culture, it seems to me, Dr. Stein, that is contrary to what you're talking about.
You're absolutely right. And what can be more important than raising the next generation of Americans? If we don't start understanding the significance of that, then we will be lost within 20 years. I mean, think about it. If you don't like culture as it is today, we have only ourselves to blame. We raised the set of citizens to be what they are. But we can change them starting right now, ground zero.
How do we make that change? Where do we start? We have a government. We have institutions, both private and public. And when I say private, I'm talking a great complaint of mine, Hollywood, the media. How do we make these changes, and how can we utilize the existing institutions that I'm talking about, government and private, to help you facilitate those changes?
It's great because we have women and we have moms out there. And I've never spoken to a mom who doesn't at least voice her understanding of what I'm saying and her goal of raising a good human being, a good citizen. Whether she actually puts that into play or not, these are concepts that all moms understand. If we can get a majority of moms, it wasn't always this way. It was differently, and moms understood their place in society probably before the 1950s or 60s. Mm-hmm. So it can be switched back when moms understand the powers at play and say no, because we can raise a better set of Americans.
But you've got organizations that are telling moms, this is my observation, correct me if I'm wrong, that are telling moms no, they can't. That they really should rely on the public school system. They should really rely on public entities like you mentioned Head Start. Is there a missed story or a missed message here?
No insult to them, but I know that what they're saying is a lie. The mom's voice has to get into our children. And when that mom's voice is there, that's what makes our society strong again.
How do we do this? Again, Dr. Rosemary Stein, our guest, a pediatrician. We're at the Conservative Leadership Conference. How do we, if you will, empower moms, or how do we open the door to moms? What are you telling your patients' mothers? Because your patients are the children.
I tell moms that we have to get back to the appearance and the demeanor of being the boss in our home over them. Once you start, parents always ask me, what buttons do I have? Give me a list. Give me a grouping of things.
Because that's one of the great problems. when these children are born, they don't come with instructions. I keep saying to the mothers, it's always on the left heel. It's printed on the left heel, the instructions for raising these children.
That's right. And so it's not as simple as that, but it's almost even simpler in many ways, because when you have that demeanor of the cool, calm boss, the one that doesn't get easily flustered, the child understands, I am not in charge here. And that child starts to understand authority. That's what we're missing, the authority of the mom.
But how do you get that message across? Do you direct that to the parent, to the mothers directly?
Yes, I do.
All right.
So we've done an amazing job at our practice at opening up what we call a behavior or a common childhood issue clinic. And we have probably at this point hundreds of moms that have participated in it. They've asked me questions, how do their children learn better? And so I've given actual instructions on the mom how to do this. And we've had such success in decreasing ADHD and the ability to focus and the ability to learn and the child's behavior that will be changed forever. So it's an individual, it's a message that should be throughout America, but it's also on the individual basis.
Our guest, and I thank her for being with us this afternoon, Dr. Rosemary Fernandez Stein. We're talking with her. She's here at the Conservative Leadership Conference. You're at a booth. What is your booth promoting?
Power of the Mom.
Power of the Mom.
That's right.
Do we have enough time to make the change?
I believe so. If I didn't think that we had enough time, I wouldn't be here.
How long have you been practicing pediatrics?
22 years.
And you're only 23 years of age. I'm impressed. And trilingual at that.
That's right. One year, I did a lot with
it. Dr. Rosemary Fernandez Stein, our guest this afternoon. And the name of your practice, please?
It's called International Family Clinic, but we sort of reduced that like Kentucky Fried Chicken to KFC to IFC Pediatrics.
IFC Pediatrics in Burlington, North Carolina. Dr. Stein, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.
Viewpoints on the talk station, FM 107, AM 1240.